Hey there YouTube, this is SJM4306 back with another review video. This time, this is an action cam from a company called Exprotrek, and they contacted me to see if I was interested in reviewing this, and this actually has a feature that none of the previous cams that I've reviewed has. It actually has two LCDs. Here you can see one on the front, one on the back. So anyway, this has pretty much the regular complement of features. It's got Wi-Fi, it's got touchscreen, it's got 4K video, HDMI out, rechargeable batteries, waterproof case, like a bunch of mounting accessories, like a wireless remote for your, like a wrist strap remote. It's got all that good stuff. So we're going to tear into this in a second. Just before I get going, I believe last I checked the price of this was about 110 bucks ish. So it's not super cheap, it's not super expensive. It's sort of in the middle of the range of what these would go for. So just want to let you guys know that. And oh yeah, the box is very nicely laid out, very colorful. It sort of has what you generally be using something like this for. And yeah, it's fully waterproof up to 40 meters. That's with the included housing. So with the waterproof case, I don't believe the camera itself is waterproof, but once you insert into the case, it should be good to go. And this is actually interesting. It says it has built-in EIS, so electronic image stabilization. When you get a really high image sensor, really high resolution, get up to 4K, you can afford to do electronic image stabilization as opposed to using optical OIS. And you basically it does that for the lower resolution modes, or if it has excess pixels of its, if it has excess pixels of what your current resolution setting is, it can actually just move kind of the pixel frame around digitally effectively. And so that's a really interesting way of doing it. And it depends how it's implemented. We'll actually have to see footage both with it on and off, see how well that works. And yeah, it says native 4K video, which is 3840 by 2160. And we'll be able to test that. Let's just get into this. It's a very small, compact box. I like that. And we're right in, and we already have the camera right in here. This is the case, obviously. It does have these metal buttons, but basically they have a silicone seal and a plunger to press the physical plastic buttons underneath it. And interestingly enough, yeah, it has this rubber kind of spacer, so there's actually a gap. So this does have a capacitive touchscreen, but you can't use it while it's in the case. So you only get 3 buttons while it's in the case. So the idea is you set this up beforehand, and then you can record or maybe change modes by using these buttons while it's in the case. So for instance, you're doing something underwater or whatever, if this is mounted on your motorcycle or snowboard, whatever. But yeah, it has one of these GoPro style mounts. And hopefully it comes with lots of mounting accessories. And we have the 2 batteries in here. Let's just see. Just caution warning. 1350 milliamp hours. There we go. Just under 5 watt hours. 3.7 volt rechargeable lithium ion. And yeah, and it has the third contact for the temperature sensing. So there's the micro SD card slot on the outside, a micro USB and HDMI out over mini HDMI. So you could probably charge the batteries while it's in here, but a lot of them will actually sell optional battery charging cradles, or it might even come with one. We'll see in a sec. But yeah, manual looks pretty, pretty fleshed out. It's what, 20 some pages it looks like. And this, like many other Wi-Fi cameras, they have their own app. And if you wanted to wirelessly transfer, I've tried the wireless transfer on these types of cameras before. It works in a pinch, but I wouldn't do that if you shot a very long video, especially at a high resolution 4K. It'll take forever, no matter how good your Wi-Fi is or anything. So it's just better just popping the SD card out. And so I got this 32 gig one just to test with. But this guy will probably take, 256 pretty easily, 512, whatever you got, it'll take. Look at that really large lens. So the lens itself is in there, and then there's this like large polycarbonate covered element part to protect it. That's interesting, and it does partially obscure the front LCD. So that's interesting. I guess there's no way they could have really gotten around that. But yeah. Anyway, let's just see other accessories in here. Just pop this open from the side. Wow, this is absolutely stuffed with goodies. Okay, these are where all the mounts are. So we have, looks like this part, yeah, it just unscrews. And so this is like a right angle mount or something. You can go into like a separate base. You have, that's interesting, a like clip mount with a like a pager style kind of belt clip or something. That's actually really interesting. I don't think I've seen this style before in the other cameras I've reviewed. We have another one of these, and I believe these are all standardized with like the GoPro mounts, so anything that a GoPro will like mount to, this should be compatible with it, which is fantastic. And we have one of these with the sticky pad on the bottom, and that'll actually mate with this guy. It just clicks right in there. And also has a, what is that, like 1/4-inch threaded insert, so you can actually put this on like a tripod. Camera does have one inside, but once you're in the case, it covers that up, so that's why they have this option. Great. We have a wrist strap for probably the remote, and it's one of these Velcro doohickeys. We have the remote itself, which looks identical to every other action cam remote I've ever seen. It's always this style here. And yeah, the batteries, it comes with the battery. It just has 2 lights. And I believe this is RF. And it just takes a single coin cell, a CR2032. And yeah, if you need to ever replace it, just 4 Phillips head screws, it'll pop out. We can open that up in a sec. But yeah, there's that. Another mount. This one actually has some adjustability. That's cool. We have the micro USB. Oh yeah, by the way, micro USB, our good old friend. Unfortunately not Type-C, but yeah, comes with a cable. It'll do the job. And very efficient use of packaging. This is just the box that everything keeps popping out of. This is like a handlebar mount for like a bike or a motorcycle or something. We have, this is another interesting one. It's just like a tripod mount with 1/4-inch thread on either side, so you can do it upside down or not, but it's like a minimal case for it. It just clips onto the bare camera itself. That's really interesting. And it has some sort of, I don't know what that's for, some sort of lip, so something slides down there that looks like. That's interesting. We have a bunch of like little, I guess, Velcro and cords and stuff like that. I guess if you wanted to mount it, just strapping it to something. We have another one of these. Looks identical to the other one, just maybe a little shorter. Yeah, it's just a shorter version of that. We have this sort of swooping one, so it's offset from the base, so it'll feed it forward a little bit more. That's interesting. And another one of these without the threaded insert. So yeah, and it has holes, I'm guessing, so if you wanted to mount these straps through it, yeah. And we have like a lint-free cloth, some extra adhesive pads. That's really good to see. We have some zip ties if you want to zip tie it, as well as like one of these pretty strong like threaded metal loops. It's like little eyelets. So yeah. And last but not least, we have one more plate, and that's interesting. Yeah. So it's like the same plate as this, but it has like a mount for, I guess, like a wrist strap. One of these, or if you did want to stick it on your wrist for some reason, that would fit there. That's interesting. So it looks like you would, I guess, push out the pin. Maybe you don't, yeah, you don't have to, I guess. It looks like maybe you can pull this one off and mount it back on there. That's interesting. Gonna have to see how this exactly fits on. But I know, yeah, we have the camera itself. We'll take it out of the case. Really nice, like, thick rubber seals, so that's not going anywhere. We have, wow, this is probably one of the smallest cameras. This actually feels like exactly the size of a GoPro. So yeah, they did a really good job minimizing this. This is tiny. It's really light, I'll tell you that, which is maybe a good, maybe a bad thing. A lot of times with these cameras, heat is an issue, just because of how small they are, and 4K sensors just generate a lot of heat, especially if you're filming at like a high frame rate. So yeah, we have our thread mount. We have the battery bay, which I'm not sure. This is like one of the things that like I would end up losing or dropping or something. So it would have been nice if this were attached. It would make the case larger though, so I can kind of see why they went this route. But yeah, this is one of these things that I would drop probably if I'm fumbling around with batteries, like doing something in public. But yeah, it has like a very soft touch. It's like a nice finish. I like that. It's plastic, obviously. Like I said, we have all the ports on the one side here. Let me just lock my focus. There we go. We have all the ports on the one side here, which is nice. Either a speaker or a mic is up there. On the other side, I guess this is a speaker. That must be the mic. So we have two buttons here, one labeled M and one has a down arrow. And the last button is OK/power. And we do have a power indicator there, and I'm sure that something shows up on the LCD while you're recording so you can see head on what you're recording. But yeah, let's just quickly grab a battery. Fire this up real quick. So yeah, it does not come with a charging base, but the battery looks actually very similar. Let me grab one of the other action cams that I have and see if this battery will fit into its charger, in which case that means they use a standardized battery so you can get cheap replacement batteries and or the charging bases, which would be awesome, honestly. So give me one sec. Okay, I grabbed for the Victure camera, I believe this was. Maybe? Doesn't actually have it written on. Yeah, I think this was for the Victure camera. And I grabbed its batteries, which look very, very similar. So let's just compare the two. Yeah, they look pretty much identical. This might not be the Victure, actually. This might be the, was it the Dragon Touch, I believe, or Dragon something. But yeah, it looks like the battery will fit in. So yeah, that is awesome. All the pins are located at the right locations, and the positive is on the end and the negative, yeah, so it's a right polarity, everything's the same. So yeah, they decided to go with a standardized battery system, so that's fantastic. I love that. So we'll just insert the battery, close the door. Yeah, there's a bit of flex on the door there, if you can see. I'll just move all this out of the way. So yeah, not sure how I feel about that long term. I wonder if the plastic might get weak and brittle and start bending and not fit right. But for now, I guess it's okay. Anyway, we'll fire this up. This is tiny. Wow. Yeah. So yeah. So we have settings here. Wow, the touchscreen is really responsive. Like, I'm barely touching it, and that's really good. A lot of touchscreens I find like you have to really press, or like sometimes you have to press harder than you really expect to. But yeah, this works fantastic. Super sensitive. And yeah. So here we have within settings, we have a record resolution, 4K 60, 30, and then 2.7K 30, 1080p 120. Wow. That's interesting. And 1080p 60, 30, and then 720p 240. I'm gonna have to test out these lower resolution modes and like take like super fast video frame snippets and whatnot. That's really interesting. Up to 240, 720, 120, and 720 60, as well as 30. So yeah, they give you actually a good range of adjustability. We have the EIS, electronic image stabilization, as well as the distortion correction, which I'm guessing corrects there is a fisheye to the lens, so I'm guessing it applies an algorithm to correct like near the edges. We have white balance set to auto, fine. Exposure setting, you can set it plus minus 3, it looks like, which is fantastic. Our metering mode is set to average right now. We can do spot, center, matrix, sharpness, high, medium, low. Video quality, high, medium, low. I'm going to want to put that on high. Then we have our ISO. We can do auto, and then from 100 all the way up to 3200. And we can have the time watermark, which this will record, turned on or off in the video. It'll embed it into the video, as well as we can turn on and off recording audio. So that's fantastic. Within the next section, we can turn on and off the Wi-Fi. We can rotate the image, so if you have the camera mounted upside down or whatever, you can rotate it. That's great. And you can reset Wi-Fi, look at Wi-Fi info. Light source frequency, I have it set on auto, but yeah, 50, 60 hertz. The LED indicator, you can turn on and off. Auto screensaver, you can set the timeout between off, 30 seconds, a minute, and 2 minutes. Auto power off, likewise, up to 10 minutes. The button prompt, wonder what button prompt is. Middle, high, turn off. Don't know what that is. Set the language, the time format. You can set the time, set the date, format the SD card, which I'll have to insert in a sec. Device info and factory reset. Here, the product number, by the way, I forgot to mention, is D68VA apparently. We are running software version 1.0, and they even have the time it was, I guess, compiled. So 2021, just the end of last year. So yeah, we have that. We have no files because I have not recorded anything yet. You can turn on and off the overlay just by touching the middle of the screen. If I hit, let's see, how do I? So I can scroll through the different modes. Yeah, if I hit the bottom there, I can manually select, or you can scroll through it. I'm guessing one of these buttons will change it as well. So this is sort of like a quick setting if you hit the M button to directly go into one of the modes. And if I hit this bottom button, I will go through all the different video modes, or just quicker just to hit the bottom there and then directly go to the video mode that you want. Video or photo, actually. And yeah, so this looks like it's going to do the job pretty well. So let's, I'm going to actually get some footage going. Oh yeah, by the way, let's see, how do I switch the video? Because right now it's showing out the back as if, you know, you're filming something else, a subject. How do I get it to show the front? Okay, so if you press and hold the bottom button, you can quick access the Wi-Fi. How do I get out of this? Press up to turn off Wi-Fi. Press up. Okay, not sure how to get out of that menu once you're in it. It says press up, so I would guess the M button, the upper button. So, okay, we're here. Now, okay, looks like you have to press and hold the M button. And yeah, there you go. You can switch. Hey there. You can switch over to the front camera, and yeah, that's actually, it's a little blurry because the protection film's on, but it's actually pretty high resolution for how small the LCD is. That's looking really nice. Yeah, and you have all the pertinent information you'd need to know. So yeah, that's fantastic. Anyway, Gonna charge up these batteries, get this SD card popped in there, and get some sample footage for you guys. So see you in a sec. Okay, so I've had this guy for about it's honestly been about 3 weeks. I've been a bit busy with a lot of different things, but yeah, so I use this effectively like a dash cam. I was hoping to kind of get some other footage, travel a little bit, but that just did not pan out. So all the footage I was able to get was basically dash cam footage. I got some nice time lapses, and so here are my findings on the camera. So in terms of use, user interface, it's actually better than some of the past action cams I've used. The touchscreen is significantly more sensitive, so when you click something, it'll actually click, as opposed to some of the other models that are like more heavily waterproofed on the camera itself. You have to actually like press much harder on the screen to get it to register, and sometimes it doesn't. You have to press it twice. This, I've never had it not register a button press or a touchscreen press, so I'm very happy with that. The design is very, very, very reminiscent of GoPro in many, many ways, and I actually like that. It's it's the smallest action cam that I have currently, and it very easily fits into your pocket, just slides in. It does not take up a lot of room. I would worry about if you were to drop this, it probably would sustain some physical damage. But I guess that's why they include like that waterproof case for it. If you are going to be doing something kind of more strenuous, you probably want to put it in that case. In that case, pun intended. And I forgot to mention this does come in two colors. There's black, and they sent me kind of this gray color, which is pretty nice actually. I like this, sort of like a stone gray color. So for, I think it was about 110, 120 bucks ish, last I checked, for a camera in that price range. I have to be honest, when I looked at the video footage, so the footage that I took, I marked down which footage was at what resolution, because at first I had wanted to give this the best chance it could, and so I recorded everything in 4K, 4K 30 I believe. Just looking at it myself when I reviewed the 4K versus the 1080p footage directly pulled off the memory card of this onto my 4K laptop. If I'm being perfectly honest, it didn't look great in certain situations. Namely, in like super bright sunlight, it had a tendency to like wash out pretty badly, but in general, as long as you had enough light, it did a little bit better. But definitely when it started getting into the darker end of the spectrum, this camera, you can kind of tell by the pictures they have on the side, it's generally meant for like brighter environments. So when I had like 1 or 2 days when it was kind of overcast and rainy and I took this out, there was a quite a bit of noise in the signal, especially the darker areas of the image. And even during very bright conditions and recording at 4K, I noticed that there was a lot of like kind of dot crawl artifacting or something going on in the image that I wouldn't necessarily expect from like a 4K camera. So I don't really have a way of testing if the sensor inside of here, I just have to take the word of the manufacturer. I don't have a way of testing if that is really true native 4K or if it's upsampling using the internal processor. If it's doing some kind of data manipulation in order to extrapolate like a higher effective resolution than what the sensor is capable of, I don't know. But all I can tell you is if you have this camera, there's really no major benefit that I've noticed recording in 4K versus 1080p. So I would suggest just recording in 1080p if you have this camera in particular, because the 4K chewed out my memory cards in terms of the file sizes. They were ridiculous. Like 5 minutes of video was like hundreds and hundreds of megabytes. I think like close to like a gigabyte. And for not really that noticeable, visible improvement over the 1080p footage, which was much smaller, yeah, when I'm going to use this, I'm just going to use it on 1080p from now on, pretty much. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. I was expecting the 4K to look better than it did. There's a lot of different factors though, just besides sensor resolution. Optics plays a huge role, and this does have two things that are going to affect that. It has a fisheye lens, and it does do software correction, and that could also be introducing some distortion into the image. So I don't remember, if I'm honest, if I had the fisheye correction setting on in the menu when I was recording in 4K. That could explain why some of the image looked kind of a little bit fuzzier than it should have been. Another thing is it does have like anti-shake, digital processing onto an image. You're gonna introduce kind of noise into it and errors, and so if you want the best quality possible, you really should turn off all those effects, unless if your footage is just jumping around all over the place and you care more about than pixel perfect quality. If you care more about stabilization, then yeah, sure, go ahead, turn on those features. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember if I had either of those features on when I was filming that 4K footage. I did turn them off when I went to 1080p though, so that could definitely have an account for why I thought the 1080p kind of didn't look that much worse than the 4K. But yeah, overall, I mean, I really like the design. I want to really like this, but it's just some small things with the usability, like not having a little door flappy here, kind of feels a little bit sketch, if I'm being honest. Just having it exposed. If you're gonna keep this in the case, I guess it's not that big of a deal. Uh, for me personally, I probably will never use the front screen. I don't do selfie stuff. I don't film myself. I film other things. So that's not really a pro for me. But I guess if you're into that sort of thing, that having that front screen in order to kind of line things up while you're filming could be beneficial. Uh, yeah, I really like that it uses kind of like these standardized batteries, and I was able to charge them in the dock from another completely different camera that was made by a different manufacturer. I love that. Batteries actually last pretty long. I did a time lapse. I just left the camera on, pointed up at my on my windshield so I can get that nice kind of cloud scrolling effect. And I left the camera on for like 5 hours or so recording, and the battery was I think there was like 1 or 2 notches left, so it probably could have recorded for twice as long in that state. Clearly it turns off the screen while it's doing that, and also obviously if you're recording at a higher resolution and not time lapse, your battery life will be less. And just from filming the daily commute that I have, uh, maybe about 40, half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, depending on traffic. Recording at 4K under those conditions, the battery icon only dropped like 1 bar on average over a couple of days that I filmed on this using the 4K settings. So it doesn't seem to consume like a super lot of amount of power. So I definitely feel like, especially if you have two batteries, if you bring both with you, that this will last fairly long. And additionally, even when recording on 4K in a car on a dashboard where it's the middle of summer, it's pretty hot. The camera itself didn't get like significantly hot. It got a little warm, but I was never actually worried about it like being so hot that it would damage the camera or anything like that. So thermals actually were pretty good. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I will have links to this down below, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And once again, huge thanks to Exprotrek for sending this little guy in for review. I always love seeing what new features these little dash cams and action cams have. So anyway, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.